see.
So we have Pratana here. Hi, Natalie. How are
Good evening,
you?
everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Sachin. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. So I've gotten some amazing news, and yeah, doing great here. It's amazing here to be in Kerala.
So, because I have so many friends from India, allow me to ask you, "Kaisa hai?"
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, we are doing really well.
Acha
thank
bacha hai,
you.
acha bacha hai.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good to see you all, guys. Very good to
Good
see
to
you.
see you all. Thank
Likewise.
you.
A
Good to
pleasure.
see all
It's
of
a
you.
pleasure.
I'm trying to log in.
So hi, Lisa.
Hi, Sachin. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Sam.
How are
Hi.
you all doing?
Hi, Lisa.
Super
Fine,
duper.
thank
Good,
Very
good.
You must apologise. Children are arriving home from school, I'm afraid. So it's everybody arriving. So I do apologise for my dogs barking.
Wow, that's okay. Actually, yeah. Hi, Mary, Sue Mary.
Oh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You have an amazing background that actually, you have brought South Africa here, literally by showing us the background. That's really amazing.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I love it. It's really beautiful. You see that all. That's really beautiful.
You must come and visit.
Definitely, yeah. Probably this year, at the end of this year, I'll be there.
For you, this heat will seem cold.
Okay. So I think Ashaniga is not really well. She's having some health issues.
Sorry to hear that.
So it's already 8:30 here.
Okay.
So I think it's 5 o'clock back in South Africa, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Hang on. So can we start, Sashi?
Yeah, sure. Let's move ahead. Let's start. Let's begin. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome everybody. Today I'm hosting the Beacons Academy Day 2 Leadership Festival. And we apologise, obviously, for our load shedding of last week, which delayed the actual day. Unfortunately, it's a problem within South Africa. So who am I? As I say, I'm hosting tonight. I am Sue Smith. I'm a professional nurse and one of the Beacons Academy coaches. My expertise focuses on life-changing events following trauma, mental health and wellness, the emotional, the psychological, how it affects us all in our day-to-day lives, in our work environment and home. And this is based on, obviously, my professional vocation that I've been very proud to say in the last 39 years in South Africa. I have learned and seen some and been privileged to meet amazing people. So I'm very privileged to be able to say I form part of this awesome team of professional and knowledgeable people to help bring Sachin's vision and mission to create 10,000 leaders globally in all walks of life through the 100 days to greatness and to make a difference in the world. As coaches and trainers, we want to motivate, inspire, and develop individuals to achieve their dreams, inspiring a vision of theirs, to teach, mentor, and coach them in order to develop the skills to become those leaders, for them to be able to see their values of their wisdom and their vision in their lives, community, and society. As a leader, sorry. As a leader, we listen to people. When we are leading, when we're in communities, when we're in even teaching events, mentoring and that, we look at people not just by listening and hearing what they say, we listen to them by the gestures of their bodies, by how they communicate, how you can look at somebody and see, is this having an impact? Is this what they need to know? Is this what they're going to gain the knowledge from, to be able to have their vision, to be able to teach them? So the hearing part is, yes, we listen and we hear what they have to say. We want to have that interaction. And as a team, we need to have that interaction of the people that want to join Beacons Academy and to be part of this awesome, awesome vision, which throughout the world is needed. And obviously here in South Africa, where the majority of us on the call at the moment are from, we know what is needed. We know from all walks of life within South Africa, and even outside the borders. My job took me to the rural areas of South Africa and over the borders, and there you saw children under the trees being taught. But some of those children are now leaders. Some of those children, no matter what circumstances they had to learn, they wanted to learn. I've got a friend, she was one of those children. She is now a teacher in Malawi. So this is what we want to do. We want to be able to give what our knowledge, our skills back to those people, to be able to have Sachin's vision and our vision also for everybody throughout the world. So I say, when you see something beautiful in someone, tell them. It may take us only a second to say it, but for them, it could last a lifetime. And, you know, you talk to people, even people I have spoken to, I taught sort of, say, 10, 15 years ago. I'm still in contact with them, and to see their growth, it inspires, because you say, okay, I know I did something, and they'll say, but this is what you said to me, and this is why I am the person I am today. So in today's, I would like to introduce today's speakers. They offer a range of topics from the power of transformation, develop and lead and follow your dream. And we all have dreams and we must all follow those dreams. Getting into shape and to develop your own personal brand. Great leadership starts with awareness, and we all need to be aware of ourselves, of ourselves, to be able to give to those people. So going forward, my 5 speakers, or Beacons Academy's 5 speakers today, I will introduce them individually, but they are Lisa Els, Neil Steerley, and I hope, Neil, I said it right with my English accent.
You certainly
Sue-Marie Sue-Marie De Bruin, Anishka Perimo, and Natalie Hind. So without further ado, can I ask that Lisa, who's going to discuss, or is going to be on the topic of the power of transformation, if she would like to start.
Hi,
Lisa.
good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second day of the Leadership Festival. It's lovely to see everyone again. So my talk is, it has a bit of a personal connection to it. The power of transformation. You know, we've all experienced at least one event that transformed us into who we are today. And it's these experiences that shape us either for the better or for worse. So I want to take you on a trip down memory lane. There's 2 questions tied to this, and the one being, what was the defining moment in your life? We all have a defining moment. We all have that one moment that's defined our lives, either for the better or for the worse. And then the other question is, now I'm taking you back almost 30 years, is how many of you can recall your exact movements on the 28th of Feb 1993? It's almost 30 years ago. So the 28th Feb 1993 was the day that defined the course of my life. And not only was it the turning point in my life, but life as I knew changed overnight, because that was the day my father abandoned us. You know, at the tender age of 16, I had to decide whether I'm taking ownership of my situation or whether I'm adopting a victim mentality, as Lanaine spoke of last week. And, you know, I told myself, okay, it's not ideal, but you can sit in a corner and you can feel sorry for yourself and you can blame the entire world for what has happened to you, or you can take ownership of your situation and you can make the best of it. And at that moment in time, I decided that my father's actions will not define my journey for the worse. It will define my journey for the better, because his actions taught me everything that I did not want to be. Rejection is probably one of the hardest setbacks that we all have to deal with. Somewhere in our lives, we have to deal with rejection, and it's very difficult to deal with rejection, both personally and professionally. As leaders, you will always, at some point in time during your leadership journey, you have to deal with rejection. You have to sail through stormy weathers. But a great leader embraces those setbacks and challenges and assumes ownership regardless of the situation. One of the most valuable lessons I learned is that, you know, we're often required to follow the road less traveled. Occasionally you have to follow a detour. Occasionally you have to be prepared to walk alone, because not everyone will share you on your, or will join you on your journey. And I think one of the most uncomfortable experiences for us as human beings is to leave that place of comfort. We all want to operate within that comfort zone, but we all know that comfort hardly ever takes you anywhere. And when I say comfort, I'm not talking about watching the Friday night movie on DSTV with Coke and popcorn. That is a completely different level of comfort. And the journey to transformation can be a very lonely journey. I think we've all experienced that, and that's perfectly fine, because I've always viewed it in the light that it's better to walk alone in the right direction than to walk with someone in the wrong direction. As leaders, or great leaders, are not afraid to venture off road, because we know the road less travel often results in great successes. And we do not fear walking alone, because we embrace the journey and we are confident in our ability to deal with the unknown. The wonderful aspect to transformation is that I always call it it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We all have to walk our own journeys. There's not an instruction manual that teaches you this is the journey to transformation. We all have to do what works best for us, essentially. Sometimes we are afraid to ask for help, and I think we're all guilty of that, especially as leaders. We all fear asking for help, and it's for various reasons, but the reality to that is that we all need help from time to time. There will come a point in your life where you need to ask for help, and it's not a sign of weakness. I see it as a sign of strength and confidence. As leaders, great leaders anyway, you know, I don't necessarily think that all leaders are good leaders. I have worked with leaders and they are not particularly all good leaders. So I always view it as great leaders are those who embrace their shortcomings and ask for help, because we most definitely do not know it all. And another great quality of leaders is that they don't fear showing vulnerability. Being a leader does not mean that you know it all, as I've said, but it shows that you don't always have an answer or a solution, which is perfectly fine. The journey to transformation starts with you. Only you have the power to change. I've met so many people. I've met great people across my journey. I mean, my journey's been it's been a 29-year journey, and I think I've met more great people than people who haven't really really done much for me. But I have met quite a few people who always, and I think we all know at least one or two people, or they always sit and wait for something to happen. They always want someone else to walk the journey for them. And that's not how the journey to transformation works. It starts with you. No one can do it on your behalf. Sometimes you feel hopeless. We've all felt hopeless. Sometimes it feels as if there's no end in sight. And sometimes you feel like the world's biggest failure, because I have most definitely at some point in time thought of myself as the world's biggest failure, which of course is not true, but you get to a point where you feel so low that you literally feels like the world's biggest failure. Ultimately, it's your attitude that accompanies you on your journey that determines the outcome. As leaders, not only will a great leader embrace, we don't only embrace our shortcomings, but we also guide and support those along their journey in sharing our failures, successes, and lessons learned with them. My message to everyone is that no matter what life throws at you, you have the courage to overcome your hardships. I think sometimes we doubt our courage. Never wish for someone else's journey because you haven't walked in their shoes, and you can never walk in someone else's shoes. So often we'll look at someone and we'll say, it seems as if their life just, it's just so smooth and their life just seems so perfect and so easy, but behind the scenes, we have no idea the road that they had to walk, the journey they had to undertake to get to where they are today. And never wish for an easier, more comfortable journey, because no one's journey is to transformation is a walk in the park. I'm yet to meet anyone to tell me, Lisa, my journey to transformation has just been the smoothest road. No one's journey to transformation is smooth. And then the other thing I also always say is celebrate your successes. People are sometimes so fearful of celebrating their successes because they feel they are selfish for celebrating success. I, on the other hand, view it as you've worked very hard for that success, for your success. Doesn't matter how big or small the success. Success is success. You have worked for it. You've earned it. So celebrate it. The greatest lessons I've learned was that we don't necessarily learn the best lessons from our own mistakes, but the best lessons are often learned from others' mistakes. And the journey is not always easy, but it's definitely not beyond anyone's capability. As leaders, we cannot expect others to follow us if we doubt and we question our own abilities. It's ultimately through the journey of transformation that we unlock our true potential. It might be an uncomfortable journey, but at the end of the day, it's a powerful and a rewarding journey. So I'll conclude in the words of John Quincy Adams. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Thank you.
Respect.
Thank you.
Respect.
Thank you so much.
That's really amazing, Lisa. It was really amazing.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much, Lisa.
Sasha.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Can I ask, does anybody have any questions or comments? No?
Feel free to ask away. You've got 2 hours.
Beautifully done, Lisa.
Okay. But thank you very much, Lisa. I think to understand transformation from all walks of life, you need to have it within your life. You cannot be the person you are if you haven't had some form of transformation and some type of incident that leads to transformation. Whether you're a child, whether you're a grown-up, you always are in transformation stage. You go into a new job, etc.
It's true, and I think that I'm just going to share. I'm not going to get too personal, but I mean, I never had a relationship with my father, so it was very easy for me to move on. So someone asked me not so long ago, what was the happiest and the saddest day of your life? And I always explained to them, the happiest day was when my father had left. And they said, what was the saddest day? And I said, the saddest day was when my father had left. And they all of a sudden they're confused. And I said, it was the happiest day because I prayed for so long, God, just take him. I don't care which way, shape, or form you take him, just take him. I do not want him in my life because he had no meaning in my life. But the sad part for me was to see the hardships that my mom had to endure, her heartache, everything that she had to deal with. I mean, I was 16 at the time. I've always been very independent and very mature for my age, but it is very difficult, especially to see a mom at the age of 16. She was unemployed at the time. All of a sudden, at the age of 42, she was 42 at the time, she became a single parent. So not only did you at the age of 42 become a single parent, you became a single unemployed parent. And there were so many obstacles that we had to overcome as a child at 16 years old. What can you do? There's only so much you can do. And I think maybe if I had a relationship with him, perhaps it would have been more difficult to deal with it. But I knew in order for me to start my journey to transformation, he could not form a part of that journey. And I was fine with that because, once again, I think it was easier for me because I never had that relationship with him. But regardless whether you have that relationship or not, it's still a parent that's lost. But ultimately, the decision lies with you. You have to decide whether you want to make the best of your situation or whether you want to make the worst of the situation. And I think what's important is, what made it easy for me my entire life was I've always had an amazing support structure in my life. And it's in the form of family, friends. A lot of people do not have that support structure. And when you do not have a support structure in your life, everything becomes more challenging. I can go to my mom, and I mean, my mom and I are more like two sisters than mother and daughter. We share literally everything and anything. And she will tell me if I'm wrong. She'll say to me, I think you are wrong, and this is why I think you are wrong. So I always have that support. Everything is unconditional. It's unconditional love. It's unconditional support. And when you have that in your life, it doesn't matter whether it's from a family member, or whether it's a friend or an acquaintance. I always say, if you have one person in your life that supports you, it makes a world of difference. But when you don't have that support, it becomes challenging, because who do you turn to? You just don't have anyone. And I think that's when people start taking the wrong detours and going down the wrong paths, because they just don't have that support.
I think you're very right there, Lisa. I mean, I can bring up many areas of transformation when, I mean, I look at it from my professional point, where I deal with employees who are injured in their daily lives, and they become an able-bodied person to somebody who now doesn't have a job, because the fact is they've become a paraplegic or they've lost a leg. And you've got to transform that person and that family unit into now you are carers. I can say the same. I mean, my late husband was the pillar of our family. I mean, he was the person. He's your father. He's your husband, your spouse. And I mean, again, transformation. And I had friends, but if I didn't have those friends when he passed, I wouldn't be able to say, I can be independent. I am very independent. And obviously with the job I do, I'm independent. But suddenly you've got children that haven't got a father anymore. Suddenly you are now take on full responsibility. So when there is a void in anybody's life, whether it be the loss of a parent, a child, or anybody that is so close, you automatically have to go through that transformation. Otherwise you will not survive. And within our profession, we always say, if you've got a spouse and a partner, and that's one spouse, they've been together for years, we always say, if that spouse or the partner can live 3 months post their death of their partner, then you know they are strong enough to continue. But if you start seeing that person deteriorating and go inward and is not able to accept as such, because it's not accept, you cope. It's not a word you say accept, you cope. Then you know that person and that family and child, etc., are going to be able to, we will put it in inverted commas, survive, because they're going to have a new life of losing a person. So yes, no, thank you.
Agreed. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Can I now introduce Neil? Neil is a coach who teaches leadership, high performance coaching, and helps his clients to achieve their successful goals. I think it's something we all need to listen to carefully, because we all have our goals and we all know our New Year's resolutions, where we set all these goals and how many of us actually achieve them. So Neil, over to you, and thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you to Session after presenting last week. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it the day after. But Session, thank you very much. You spoke of leaders, iconic leaders, and I was very much inspired by that. And let me say why. Obviously, everybody knows I'm from South Africa, and everybody knows Nelson Mandela, fondly known as Madiba. And I don't know if anybody read his book, The Long Road to Freedom, which was awe-inspiring, quite amazing. And I personally have my own statement that correlates, and it's the long run to successful leadership. So I have a story to tell, and I'd like to share it with everybody. I think it's very important. We all go through midlife crisis. Back in my mid-20s, I was at a financial institution, seriously overweight, and just not knowing where I was going, no direction, feeling despondent, didn't know what life was about, very unsure, indecisive. What did I decide? I decided to do something about it. And yes, the leadership quality was there, but I didn't know at the time. And I think the important issue here is I'd made up my mind to lose the weight. And I was grossly overweight, call it 45 kilos. And obviously seeing doctors and telling me I'm going in the wrong direction, everything negative, and I couldn't bear that. And I'd said, I have to do something about this. And what did I do? I went on a diet. But diets, yes, they work, but they need to be consistent. I had to do something more. And what did I do? I decided to exercise. And it's quite incredible, but I couldn't run 100 meters. And it's all about that mindset of yours. It's how determined you are. And Sue, you spoke about, yes, I'm very much goal-oriented. And that's what I coach. That's what I lead. It's really about being smart. And I don't know if anybody's heard of the terminology SMART. It's being specific. It's being measurable. It's being attainable. It's being realistic. And it needs to be time-bound. So in other words, you have to be organized. You have to understand that what you are going to do, you are going to reach those goals. And I had, at that stage, made up my mind I was going to lose that weight. Because what was it going to do for me? It was going to help my mind. Healthy body, healthy mind. I'm going back many, many years. After 3 months, I was able to run 5 kilometers. After 6 months, I was able to run a half marathon. 18 months later, I did my first marathon. I ran under 3 hours, which is unheard of. I'd literally lost 48 kilograms, ladies and gentlemen. What did it do for me? It told me how to take that mindset and turn me into a leader. And by that, I mean, how do we plan our life? How do we prepare our life? How do we execute our life? There's always that report back. about saying, well, I've achieved my goal. I've done what I'm supposed to do. And then the important aspect is to do the follow-ups. And when it comes to leadership, Andrea last week mentioned engagement. He said, side by side, absolutely right. It's more about discipline. It's more about the emotions. How emotional are we? Can we share our stories? People want to learn. And what is that? Prathana mentioned it last week. It's about listening. You know the story of the 2 ears and the one mouth. The 2 ears is greater than the one mouth. What comes first? The ears. We have to listen first before we can share our knowledge, our experience, our expertise. This is what we're about. And what is transformation of leadership? Very, very simple. What are we as a transformational leader? It's a model of integrity and fairness. We set clear goals. We have high expectations, which then forms part of your discipline. We encourage others. And so with my running, obviously I was able to go through sports psychology. I studied that. I learned a great deal. I've done many talks. I've run Comrades Marathon. And Sashin, you spoke about Pietermaritzburg last week, and you battled to pronounce it. Well, I'm now correcting you and saying it's Pietermaritzburg. And the reason why I know about Pietermaritzburg, everybody in South Africa will know where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
The Comrades Marathon, the Ultra Comrades Marathon, 90 kilometers. Spare a thought of starting in Pietermaritzburg and finishing in Durban. That's the one aspect to achieving your goal. And I did my first Comrades Marathon. And what did I say to myself? I've done the training. I've been given the ability. I have the talent. It's what you do with the talent. Everybody is a leader. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you learn. It's how you teach them. It's how you encourage others and how you provide, as Lisa says, the support and the recognition. I finished that race, 90 kilometers, finished in Durban, and I ran a silver medal, 7 hours and 2 minutes. And everybody said to me, but how did you achieve that? You were 48 kilograms overweight, not such a long time ago. Why? I have the will. And I want people to learn how to become successful. Sports psychology as part of a model. It's another leadership module. There's many leadership modules. It's one of them. Again, I refer to healthy body, healthy mind. Stir the emotions of people. Get them willing, get them wanting to learn. When we go into coaching, as correctly said by Andreas last week, we have the business side of coaching. I've been a director of many companies, and people go through lulls. They get depressed. They don't understand. And it's about you. It's about you getting them together and switched on. And I have this philosophy. We work in teams. Together, everybody achieves more. And that's how coaching is. Coaching is about getting out there and leading people in different module format, be it business, be it development, be it growth, be it sport, whatever you want to call it. This is what coaching is about. And I'm very passionate about it. I really am, because I know how to achieve. I represented the old Transvaal, as the older people would know, in a 100-kilometer event, and he finished 5th and got a gold medal. I've received many, many medals. But the point I'm trying to make, it's not all about what I've achieved in sport. It's what I've taken from the sport and given it back into the business world. And that's how I'm able to coach and create that passion. We have our professional people, we have our students. And that's why I'm so excited about Beacons Academy. We have a golden opportunity to take us to many levels. And I love the 100-day scenario. It's a goal, Sue, it's a goal. And we need to get there, and successfully. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Neil. Well
Thank
done.
you. Anybody got
Thank you,
any
Neil.
questions? Anything? Can I just ask you, Neil, from your leadership coaching and what you actually do, the importance of recognition to people that have achieved. How do you go about it, or where would you look at recognition for those people? Because as you said, people are demoralized. I mean, you can work in a company, you can be part of a team, you can be bringing success, but if there's no recognition, I mean, obviously people become demoralized. How would you then look at it and say, you need to be able to give that recognition?
Well, I think it's a case of having proved from your side, in other words, gaining the respect from the individual first, and then the individual will then take cognizance of what you've achieved and work with you, as despondent and depressed as that person, that individual might be. You have to lead by example. You know, it's the delegation/abdication scenario. You know, we cannot abdicate if we haven't performed. Am I correct? So you have to follow, well, the person that's leading has to follow you by example. That's the bottom line.
And can I just, it's another question I just want to know, within your leadership and that, we talk about teams. Do you have where you can have 6 people in a team, 2 people in a team, or 20 people in a team? What you feel the best approach is, and how much success do those people or that team get? If it's a small team without the skills, or you've got a 20 team where you've got lots and lots of skills, but you're not getting what you're wanting as to the achievement that is, like, say, a goal setting?
Well, it's a very good question, Ed. And when I'm doing a presentation or when I'm having a meeting with, whether it's a team of 20 or whether it's a team of 6, it's irrelevant. If I'm getting no objections or if I'm getting no questions, I mean, there's a lovely saying. If you ask a question, I'm just trying to remember the saying now. If you ask a question, you're a fool for 5 minutes. If you don't ask a question, you're a fool forever. And if you're not getting that sort of response, in other words, you're not getting any objections, then you've clearly lost that particular individual. So that you'll allow the session to go, and thereafter you will have a one-on-one with the individual or individuals who weren't on the same page as you. But you're able to realize through people that are not being transparent, that are not being part and parcel of the meeting. I always
That's why I say you look at the person, at their body language, because you're talking.
Very important, very important. And if they're not responding to you, then you know, I always look, one of the big signs is looking at their watch. It tells you, you know, how much longer is this going to go? And you got to be with, you know, the ability to lead. You've got to be able to pick up those vibes. It's very important. So whether you're training or leading or coaching 6 people or you're coaching 20 people, it's irrelevant. It's really about, I mean, I presented to 1,000 people, and I've noticed that after talking sort of 20, 25 minutes down the line, that people are starting to get irritable. Time to end your presentation. Time to move on.
So is that what you would do? You would end it rather than continuing, because if you see people, as you say, people are not being responsive to what you're discussing, and then you would cut it short, or would you look at another way of now trying to get people more involved by putting a question out there and asking them a question?
I switch over to Q&As, questions and answers. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Have I lost anybody here? And I'm very much straightforward. That's exactly how you got to be, because you got to be passionate about what you're doing. We revert straight to Q&As, straight to Q&As. And it's amazing how all of a sudden that presentation picks up again, because you're interested in your audience. So they become interested in you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody got any questions or anything? Thank you very much, Andre, for your comments there. I did note them coming through. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you, team, for listening.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Neil.
Neil.
Thank you so much, Neil, for that wonderful story
I
of
may
yours
just
and
for one
sharing
step.
that with us.
Okay, Andrea's got a question.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, everybody. I'm just listening so carefully to each one of you. Once upon a time, there used to be a book, and there is a book called In Search of Excellence by Tom Peters, many years back. I am thinking, because of following, let's say, Sachin's example, I am thinking of getting my book some years from today, which is called In Search of My Purpose. I don't think I'm going to finish it ever, but when I am talking to my people, to my leaders, to my coaches, then they realize what my purpose is. Nobody in corporations is talking about purpose. That's why I hate the word management and I love the word leadership. So, Neil, thank you for bringing so many good points to the surface, my dear friend. I appreciate it.
It's a great friend. It's a great pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you.
We'll go to our next speaker, who is Sue Marie. Her title is Getting into Shape. Sue Marie.
Hello, everyone. And yeah, thank you so very much for this opportunity. I'd like to start off asking you to imagine something with me. If your life could be represented by a line with the day that you were born on the one hand side and today at the very other end. And as you look through that line, if you could mark your interactions with some important and significant leaders all throughout your life. Now, these leaders could be your parents, it could be people in leadership positions at your school, teachers, lecturers, it could be community leaders, it could be leaders within your government. There's so many leaders that we are surrounded from that we can learn from. Now, granted, not necessarily all of these interactions with leaders are necessarily positive. And that's part of what this exercise should be about, is really seeing how these leaders shape who you are today, whether in a positive way, because you've seen behavior that you think, wow, now one day when I am faced with that type of situation, I hope that I have the grace to model exactly that type of behavior and handle it in the same way. Or alternatively, whether you've seen behavior that you look at and you think, sure, no, that's really not who I want to be one day. I really do not want to become that person. I do not want to have that type of relationship or that type of impact with the other people around me. And if I may share with you 2 examples from my own life, from my interactions with significant leaders. The one, I will refer to her as Mrs. J. Mrs. J was one of our teachers at school. And as a lot of the teachers do, when they have the opportunity in the teachers' lounge, they will be discussing the kids in their class. And they would often name and shame, highlight some of the so-called troublemakers and label them. So when a new year starts, even before a child gets to say, my name is Sue Marie, or whoever the case may be, the teacher will already start reading off a list of the troublemakers that need to come and sit right in front so that a close eye can be kept on them. And Mrs. J was different. She was one of the very few teachers ever throughout my school career that did not do this. Mrs. J didn't use any of these labels. She didn't call any troublemakers to the front. She treated every single child as a completely blank canvas and gave them the opportunity to, in her class, introduce themselves and allow her the opportunity to really get to know them. And in front of my very eyes, I saw one of the boys in our class, and I'll call him TJ for the purposes of this story, TJ was a renowned troublemaker. He had very disruptive behavior in class. TJ generally wouldn't do his homework, no matter what the subject was. But suddenly in Mrs. J's class, we got to know a completely different TJ. His behavior was suddenly not disruptive. Instead, he became a model student. TJ's homework was always done. And in fact, it became the only subject in which TJ suddenly excelled. He suddenly got distinctions. I think the other teachers might not have believed it or thought she'd ever bothered marking and just gave him A's or something. But it really was true. And I learned from that people quite often will become who we allow them to become. If we label them, if we convince them that you are nothing, you are useless, you are trouble, then that will be what we get from them. But if we continue to have high expectations, they can live up to a whole new potential that maybe even exceeds what we would have thought they could achieve in the very beginning. And then quite the opposite, many years later, I worked in an organization where one of the people that I worked for was Mr. A. And Mr. A was a challenging customer. He was not very computer literate. We had to prepare reports and presentations on his behalf that he would then present to senior management. And Mr. T was very upfront about the fact that if you did a good job with your report or presentation, he intends to take all of the credit for it. And if you did not, he would tell everybody that that was your piece of work. And that example from Mr. A and how that made everybody feel around him really taught me again that one day when I was in a leadership position, it was really important to me to ensure that credit went where credit was due, but at the same time that I would protect those that helped me and worked with me and not just throw them out and say, no, that was the person that made the mistake. So these experiences that we have with leaders really shape who we become, whether they intentionally have that type of impact in our lives or unintentionally, the impact is still there. And if I can then move on from these leaders in our lifeline, there's also the very many experiences, like Lisa was also mentioning. You have some significant experiences that end up shaping who you are today. And those experiences can be big, life-changing events. It can be things that we learn from losing loved ones. It can be things that we can learn from natural disasters that we live through. It can also be things that we learn through what we do in our free time, maybe some sports that we pursue, some hobbies that we participate in. And it can also be something as small as a specific book that we read, a YouTube video that we watched, a webinar that we attended, a course that we participated in. But these experiences also shape the person and the leader who we are today. And again, from my own experiences, I will share two stories with you. The one is going through very big changes, being part of an organization that went through an acquisition. We were bought by a big international company, and how we felt, how we were treated, the uncertainty of going through such a big change has really shaped who I am today and how I deal with big changes in my life, how I understand that even having clarity on the very little things like where you are going to park, whether you need to have your own mug with you, actually helps to settle those nerves and make you feel like a little bit less than a fish out of water and as completely outside of your comfort zone. And at the same time, or on the other hand side, I'm a really new parent. My little baby is now just over 3 months old. And that is teaching me a whole new, different side of life again. How with such a new life, we tend to celebrate even the littlest of achievements. And I keep thinking to myself that as a leader, how have I lost these celebrations of each little step that we take We keep thinking, no, I need to finish the whole degree. I need to wait until I've got that big paper to celebrate. Whereas I should be celebrating every single test, every single class, every single mark that I passed. All of those things, all of these experiences can end up shaping who we are today. Now, what is the whole purpose of talking about all of these shapes? I was sitting and chatting to a friend of mine a few years ago, and she looked over and she asked me, well, what shape would you like your coffin to be one day? And I thought, that is an incredibly odd question. And she explained that she had been reading about a tribe who, when somebody passes away, decides on a shape that serves his life, and that they carve your coffin to be in. If that is the case, I would like a lit candle. There must be a flame in that shape, because without the flame, the candle is in essence just a rectangular box, which to me signifies potential that was never realized because this candle was never lit. And in the same time, that flame for me is about igniting. It's igniting the potential in others, bringing change, bringing light, bringing warmth to their lives. And that is the shape that I want to personally, intentionally pursue. That is the shape that I want to impact onto others when they interact with me and get to know with me as a leader. I want to be intentional about that influence in shaping them. And it's also how I choose the experiences, the books that I read, the courses that I participate in, all of those things to support this shape that I'm. So I would like to encourage all of you to go and think about what that shape is that you would like to have, and then to similarly choose how you come to that shape to be intent you have as a leader onto the lives of others. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful message.
I think you've definitely put a few seeds in people's brains now to start thinking, because straight away I started to think, and you do think, but it's only because you've been asked to think, by being asked to look at. And I mean, some of this, like you were talking about the children and that type of thing. I mean, you know, as we always say, you must never judge the book by the cover, because you'll suddenly find that within that book, there is definitely a different person. And, you know, reputation, and as they say, first impressions are the most lasting impressions, and that goes through life. So, you know, as a child, as in a school, you're going to get, you know, if that child is disruptive or that child is naughty, that will carry on through school. And you hope that then that it hasn't made them demoralized and said, okay, well, this is who I am nobody else. It's the same as somebody in the workplace. You know, they may get things wrong, but they've got so much potential, but they've already been named and labeled as, this is a naughty child, this person doesn't know, where you're not giving them the opportunity to be able to show and to allow them to grow. You don't know what is going on as to the reason why that child was like that, because to have a change, you don't know what is going on in that person's life for that person to maybe make a mistake or doesn't look interested. So you always have to give a person the opportunity to be able to grow, to be able to express themselves, because maybe they also are scared in case they feel that they are wrong, you know. And I'll take you an example. I mean, my granddaughter was exactly the same. In grade R and grade 1, you know, she knew the answers to questions, but she was scared to say something in case she got shouted at, because in her grade R class, that's what happened. So she kept quiet. So it's the same as in a working environment. It's the same as socially. You know, you want to say something, but you don't know how you're going to be looked at, laughed at, or whatever. So people are also scared. But thank you very much. Anybody got any questions? Gee, everybody's very quiet today. Okay, let us go on. Our next speaker, and I don't know, I hope I do say it right, is Anishka Perimol, who is going to be talking, or her discussion is on building your own personal brand, be authentic and shine. Anishka?
Unfortunately,
Oh, you said she was sick.
Ashaniga, yeah,
Yes,
Ashaniga wasn't
okay.
here. She was sick.
I do apologize. So then we'll have Natalie. Natalie is going to talk on great leadership starts with self-awareness. And
Yes.
thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Sue. You know, it's been interesting. Even last week's chats and even this week's presentations, it's been fascinating to listen to everybody. And even though that the topics are so different, there are these points where there's points that intersect across the presentations and then support each other. And it made me think about something that Nokubongo said last week, which really I absolutely loved, and it really resonated with me. And that was, please forgive me if I'm butchering your phrase a little bit, Nokubongo, but it went along the lines of, I decided to make myself more visible to myself. Am I getting it right there, Nokubongo? And I sat back and I thought, what does that really mean, to make myself more visible to myself? And to me, and actually perfectly complemented what I was going to talk about, because that said to me, I need to understand myself and get to know myself more. All right. So during this discussion, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about the connection between great leadership and self-awareness. Okay. So why? So self-awareness is empowering, because it arms you with knowledge to be able to make better decisions, better choices, to be able to learn and to be able to grow. Now, I'm going to pose two or three questions. Now, these are the kind of questions I regularly ask during my training sessions. Okay, if I were to say to you, and probably this group, I might get a slightly different response, but if I were to say to you, if I were to ask you right now what your top 3 strengths are, would you be able to tell me off the top of your head? Don't think about it too much. Good. And if I were to say to you, what are your top 3 development areas? Because we don't use weaknesses in this environment, we use development areas, right? You'd be able to tell me.
I agree, Natalie.
Okay, so yes, exactly. You'd be able to tell me what your top 3 weaknesses are. Yeah. Let me tell you something that I've discovered, and I've asked these types of questions many times, and the result is always the same. Of a group of 20, there might be 2, maybe 3 people who can tell me what their strengths are. Of a group of 20, I'll have maybe 5 or 6 that can tell me what their developmental areas are, which is very, very interesting. And we need to sit and ask ourselves, hang on a sec, why are people not thinking or so unaware of what the kind of the basics in terms of self-knowledge is? And I think the reason is that we tend to jump on that hamster wheel that is life. We jump on it, we put our heads down and we go. We don't look up, we don't look left, we don't look right. You know, life, this thing called life that we're doing is very hectic. If it's not working your 8 to 5, it's paying the bills, it's sorting out the kids' lunches and sports, it's updating your TV, your car license, renewing passports, paying fines, sorting out the leak in the roof, and you just go. So as a result, people do not take the necessary time to sit back and really reflect and go, what am I really about? What really excites me? What would I rather stick hot pokers up my nose than do? What gets me leaping out of bed? What am I really, really good at? What do I hate doing? What do I bring to the party that nobody else does? So I think that self-awareness is and according to an article written that was published in the MIT Sloan Management Review called How to Be a Better Leader, self-awareness was cited as the most critical kind of element to develop in order to be a successful leader. And successful leaders are very aware of what their strengths are, their natural abilities, talents, gifts, but also their shortcomings. And they know how to leverage those strengths and gifts, and how to what's the word? Plug the holes of the shortcomings, right? So as an example, if I were a project lead, I'm leading a big project. Now I know that one of my strengths and one of my gifts is I'm really, really good at motivating, inspiring, getting people, on the going. So I would leverage that. I would use those strengths to generate interest and excitement and energy around the project. However, I also know about myself that this particular project needs someone with a skill set that is very detail oriented, and that ain't me, right? That is not me. So I can make a decision. I can say, you know what, is it going to be beneficial to me to actually go and spend the time and effort developing that ability to be more detail oriented? Cool, I could do that. Or does it make more sense for me to get someone onto that project that has already got that natural ability, that really enjoys and is good at the detailed stuff? Because that's where your discernment as a leader comes in, right? So self-awareness really kind of, it empowers all of the other leadership characteristics or skills, because when we are aware of the thoughts, words, and actions that are coming through us, particularly the actions, because we need to be very aware of what our actions or the impact of our actions is on other people. And the more we are able to make a positive impact on those people, the better we are able to lead. So let's have a look at a couple of little tips and some strategies on how can you become more self-aware. The first thing is that I want to say, and a couple of people have said this and I want to back it up, but it's not about the position, it's about the person. I'm sure we can all agree that we experienced people in management positions that were horrible leaders. Good at managing, they can do the stuff, they can get the operational stuff done, great, but not really great leaders. And at the same time, I've also come across great leaders that have got no interest in, taking on the drama of a management role. They would rather they influence from the side. So leadership really, when we're talking about it's about the person, it's about a set of principles and the behaviors that get developed and then get delivered to consistently. The next one is, I'm sure you're all familiar with this phrase and with Socrates, who was a philosopher in ancient Greek, and he was quite a bit of a troublemaker. But he was asked, if you could reduce all of your philosophical teachings into one, what would you say? And he said, know thyself. So how do we get to that point where we can say, I know myself? We need to be able to be very aware. Okay, yes. Sorry, I'm looking at the comments there, Andreas. So we need to be aware of what is going on internally. What are our thoughts? What are our feelings? But also aware of what are those external triggers that allow us to respond in a certain way. Okay, and again, we need to think, why do I do the things that I do? Why do I react to certain people the way that I do? And once you start really becoming conscious of the patterns of your thoughts and your feelings and your triggers, you can start doing things that mitigate any kind of negative behavior around them. So as an example, if I know, which is true, that I'm triggered by traffic in the morning and people showing no respect for red robots and people driving in emergency lanes, it drives me absolutely wild. If I get into the office, I know, don't schedule meetings, with stakeholders or with anything first thing in the morning, because I'm likely to be irritated. All right, you're getting where I'm going with that. Feedback. Gather trusted feedback is another really, really, really important self-awareness tool. An indicator of low self-awareness is people who are not aware of their blind spots. In other words, the things that they are doing, behaving, or doing on a consistent basis that might be impacting negatively on how they're perceived, or just on other people. I'm going to share a personal example with you. When I was working in corporate, one of my team decided she was going to leave and go and pursue her dream of becoming a chef, which she duly does. Now, for those of you who will know that when you leave a big corporate, you have to go through an exit interview where you go and sit with HR and they ask you all sorts of questions like, why are you leaving us? Where are you going? You know, would you recommend us as a place to work? And, you know, have you got any feedback from your manager and all that sort of good stuff? So to the question, do you have any feedback from your manager? While the majority of the feedback was really, really good, this girl said one thing that when I sat back about it and was like, what does she really mean by this? So to that, she said, Natalie tends to do things at the last minute. Now, when I sat back and I thought about it, it was a bit of an axe between the eyes because I do things at the last minute. But I'm the kind of person, I do my best work under pressure. Do not give me long lead time on a project. I will leave things to the last minute, but that is when I get into flow. I'm able to block out, I'm not a bongo, I can see I've got a kindred spirit on my side. I can block out all other distractions, get super focused, and produce a really good quality piece of work. What I wasn't taking into consideration was the impact that behavior was having on certain members of my team. Members of my team, so I'm quite happy operating in chaos. I'm kind of a go by the fly by the seat of my pants kind of girl, right? What I wasn't taking into consideration was the impact that some of that behavior was having on certain members of my team who were, you know, they liked that very orderly, very structured, like to plan. So you can imagine me kind of swooping in at the last minute going, oh, we need to change X, Y, and Z, or we need to do this at the last minute, to send these poor people into an absolute apoplexy. So I had to become very conscious of minimizing the impact or minimizing that behavior with certain members of my team in order to get the most positive results. You know, I have to sit and plan and plan better and you know, build in buffers for deadlines, etc. So feedback, highly recommend. If you are unaware of any kind of behaviors that you might be doing consistently that might be impacting you negatively on how you're being perceived or the impact that you're having on other people, I really would recommend that you go to somebody that you trust and say to them, you know, is there something that I'm doing on a regular basis that is, you know, not really positive? Okay. The next thing is listen, and a lot of people have already picked up on the importance of active listening, but I want to take it from a slightly different perspective in terms of self-awareness. What active listening does, and particularly active listening with empathy, is that it puts you in the shoes of other people and allows you to, with an open mind, experience or to explore different people's perceptions and different ways of doing things. And by doing that, what are we doing? The better we understand ourselves, the better we understand other people, the better we can lead. Okay. And lastly on those points is good leaders are good followers. There are far too many people, as I said, who are in positions of authority who don't know how to follow, because they are so concerned with holding on to control and wanting to be in charge of everything that they don't know when to hand over the reins and go, in this particular situation, you need to take control, and I will go with whatever it is that you say. Okay, so good leaders are also able to be good followers. So we've had a look at the why. Why is it important to develop your self-awareness? We've had a look at some ways of how you can do that. So let's have a look and just, what are the benefits? So a lot of studies have been done around the link between self-awareness, self-aware leaders and their impact on business. And what these studies have shown is, among others, I'm only going to list a few of the benefits, is that the teams that are led by self-aware leaders tend to have less conflicts because the leader creates an environment that is open, transparent, and honest, so that people feel like they can resolve their issues constructively within that environment. Also, there's a major link between self-aware leaders and the leading high-performance teams. Self-aware leaders tend to have teams that are able to not only meet but exceed their business objectives, cost cut, be more efficient, etc., etc. And lastly, there was a very interesting study that was done by the Korn Ferry Institute, where they looked at 483 companies on the stock listed companies, and they compared their stock performance. And what they found was that there was a direct correlation between organizations that were performing strongly financially with employees that were more self-aware. So in summary, ladies and gents, at its core, self-awareness is not just another kind of tool for success. It really kind of reminds us of why we became leaders in the first place, and allows us to live, or to explore and to live the impact that we want to have as leaders, not only on our teams, our organizations, our communities, but on the world. And that's the kind of leader I want to follow. Thank you.
Natalie, superb. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Andreas.
Yeah, that was indeed really amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Natalie, I just want to, sorry, Natalie, I just want to add, when you talk about a leader being able to follow, you're absolutely spot on. And of course, we have that technology, and we call it micromanagement. Very dangerous. Hello? Hello?
Oh, sorry, Neil,
Sorry,
you broke up. You broke up.
Yeah, I broke up. Sorry,
Could you
I was just saying, we you referred. Are you there? Can you
Yes,
hear me
Neil,
now?
but you
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear you, Neil.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
We can hear you.
yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, our Wi-Fi is a little bit. When you refer to a leader actually being a follower, okay, you absolutely spot on me when you refer to a leader being a follower, because the danger is micromanagement set into a business. Once somebody's
Oh, golly, Neil, you're breaking up hectically.
micromanaged, very, very understand followership. Hello? My apologies. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
we can
Hello?
hear you.
Yeah,
but
we
you're
can hear
breaking
you,
up.
but your voice is breaking. I think it's because
sorry.
of the low
Probably the
signal.
Wi-Fi. Probably the Wi-Fi. But yeah, as I said, I don't want to repeat myself 1,000 times. But Natalie, well said on the leader being a good follower, because if he's not or she's not, it's definitely about micromanagement. And
100%.
micromanagement can be very, very dangerous in any form of business.
Sure,
I think
sure,
it's
sure.
detrimental to a business, micromanagement.
Mm. Mm.
Thank you, Natalie. That was great.
Oh, thank you, Neil.
Anybody else got any comments?
Yeah, hi Natalie. I think you were absolutely wonderful. Pratna this side.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was so energetic and so lovely to hear you talk. What I would just like to add is when we talk about self-awareness, the first thing I think towards that journey, in my opinion, is reflection. So because I have met and have talked to so many people, so I think most of them, as you said, are completely self unaware in that sense. But the first step to actually becoming self aware is I'm taking and I'm borrowing your experience where you said, when you got that feedback from HR, and and you actually thought to yourself and said that why is somebody saying this to me. So that is the first process where you are actually reflecting on feedback, and that's how you come up to the second point, which is becoming aware, where it actually makes a difference because you have thought about it and then come back and then realize that yes, this is an area which I probably need to work more on, or I need to so I felt that just to share with everybody, it's very important that we first understand and reflect onto what is our circumstances and what are the reactions that we are getting repetitively in our life, and what is life going in one single particular trajectory, unless and until that actually hits you at some point in time where you reflect and you come to know that okay, something is not so okay right here. And that's where we actually start the journey of self awareness. Because till then, I think most people, like you, use the word, the example of the hamster, that you're going round and round. I think most people spend their entire lifetime doing exactly that, and nothing really hits them. And to integrate with what Lisa also said, when there is a significant event or there is something which actually makes you look back at yourself, and that's where the awareness starts coming, that something is there. So I just thought, maybe I would just love to share that part of it with everybody. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Beautifully added, Pratna.
That is
Excellent
absolutely
observations. Yes.
wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. I really enjoy your session. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
thank you. Thank you to all these speakers. I think it was absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Sachin, I think we've come to the end. Najibullah, are you there?
No, actually, at the moment he's at work. He's on duty. But I just, first of all, I just have to say that today's session, it was really a lovely experience. Not only, I think, for us, but also for people who are listening. Not only from here, also for, who are listening through our social medias. So I really have enjoyed it. And first of all, so let's say from the beginning, Sue, you were really amazing today. I gotta say that. The thing that she said when we first met, that she said to me, I am actually over 60, but I have the mindset of a young woman, and it's something like that she said, and that's exactly what she represented today. And I just gotta say that that's really amazing to bring that vigor, energy, that passion, and you also really shared that vision that we have for us. So it's really amazing. And I think, throughout the sections, one thing that I have really encountered is that your emotional and intellectual investment to the vision, which is really, really important. Because unless you have both those two, the emotional investment where you are connected with your heart to that vision, that you're, now you're self-driven. No matter what happened, you keep going. I just love to repeat the quote that Martin Luther King used. If you cannot fly, run, and if you cannot run, walk, and if you cannot walk, drag yourself to that destination. I think that's exactly what happens when you put yourself, when you put that emotion and intellectual both into the very vision that we have. And I am quite happy to see that that's happening here, that you have all emotionally as well as intellectually invested in this quest to make a change in the world, a quest to create a change in the world. And Beacons Academy is honored to have such great leaders. And so then I've got to listen to the story of Lisa, and it was really amazing. And she started with saying that some of the defining moments in life. And of course, I think every movement starts with a defining moment. And perhaps, I don't think that this mission started quite a while or weeks or month ago, but it indeed started years ago. perhaps, when you were going through a defining moment. And perhaps, that day, and I think that somehow we were all just joined together under this one vision, and which is actually the moments when we have come together, where we started to walk toward that same destination. And indeed, we all started walking years before, and somehow just met today. So of course, that defining moment, indeed we all have that defining moment. And also this is a really indeed a defining moment for not only for us, for many people. Because what I believe and what I have learned throughout my entire life, I actually went through both suffering, struggles, and lots of happy moments. And throughout that journey, one thing that I have learned is that every single human being on this earth has immense potential. Immense. Now, that literally immense potential that even we cannot imagine. So we are here with this immense potential, and we have a goal, a mission to achieve. And I'm happy that you have shared that potential to this vision. And we have then Neil. Neil came along, and he said he narrated the story about marathon and his life journey. And I gotta say that this is indeed a marathon. This is one of the best marathon that we are going to ever take in our lifetime. And perhaps, one of the marathons that defines many lives, that defines many institutions, that defines many organizations, many communities. Because what I believe is that, whenever I learn something, I read something, whenever I read a particular person who made brought a lot of change in the society, what I see there is that person, when he decided to do something, for a particular reason, the thing is that all the possibilities start to emerge. And that's exactly what happens. And this journey is about. And I think, when all these people come together for this specific reason, vision, I think there are immense possibilities where this could take us. And so I just would love to say that welcome to this marathon, this journey which is going to completely change your lives and many other lives. So then we have an amazing speaker, Sue Mary. So I just have to say that she spoke about shaping the world, shaping us. In fact, what I think about when I think about people, when I think about organization, when I think about communities, the thing is that it's how we lead the organization, how we lead our communities, how we lead ourselves. Actually, that shapes a particular organization. We have a vision. What makes or what shapes this vision to the thing that we really want to see in the future is actually, how we lead this. And of course, I'm quite sure that we've got such an amazing team, and we can really bring that shape into this vision. And I can actually literally see now, what it's like to be in 2025, or what it's like to be in 2030. And I can't wait to see that, all the fruitful things that we are going to do together. And Sumari, thank you for that. Thank you for that message, shaping us. And of course, we indeed have to ask ourselves what shapes us. And I think, the purpose, as Andrea Prathonos, and I remember that because he kept repeating to himself, not only to us, purpose. And indeed, I think what shapes us is that the common purpose that we share together. Which is why, perhaps one of the reasons why we are here. And also which is the reason what makes us who we are. And so finally, Natalie said, about self-awareness, and it is indeed because my journey started when I started to think, look into myself. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. And I think every person start the journey by just looking into himself, by asking himself, what am I, and what am I to him, to them, to the to my organization, to community. And indeed that question matters. And I think let's start this journey together by asking ourselves that very question. What am I to this community? Who am I to this community? Who am I to this vision? Because what I believe is that what you can contribute to this vision is beyond you, even your imagination. It's like that, it's always impossible, until it's done, until it's made possible. And I believe that we can make it possible. And let's do that by looking into ourselves. And thank you for these amazing messages, for this amazing journey that you have taken us. And I know that we still have got many miles to journey further, and I'm really indeed excited to see what lies ahead. And once again, thank you, team, thank you, leaders, thank you, dear friends, for being with us, for being together on this journey.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sachin.
Sachin. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Session.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much.